हाय एवरीवन, वेलकम टू द चैनल। करंट अफेयर्स में एक तरीका होता है जब हम चीज़ों को रटने की कोशिश करते हैं, वहीं दूसरा तरीका होता है जहां हम चीज़ों को समझने की कोशिश करते हैं, उसके मल्टीपल डायमेंशंस को अंडरस्टैंड करने की कोशिश करते हैं और फिर एक वेब बन जाता है इन्फॉर्मेशन का हमारे दिमाग में। ऐसा क्लैट में अल्टीमेटली क्या स्किल रिक्वायर्ड है जो कि आपको औरों से अलग कर सकता है। द इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट इज़ कि जब भी आपको ये कीवर्ड देखें तो आप उसको रीड करने के पहले आपके दिमाग में उसके चारों तरफ के सारे डायमेंशंस अपने आप दिमाग में आ जाएं। होता क्या है इससे कि आप क्वेश्चंस को प्रॉपर तरीके से असेस कर पाते हैं, बिकॉज क्लैट जैसे पेपर में करंट अफेयर्स को निकालने के लिए एलिमिनेशन टेक्निक जो है वो बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करती है। क्योंकि क्लैट कंसोर्शियम ये समझता है, ये जानता है कि स्टूडेंट के पास लिमिटेड अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम है, यानी 120 मिनट में 120 क्वेश्चन का मतलब ये है प्रैक्टिकली स्टूडेंट के पास 1 मिनट पर क्वेश्चन होता है। तो ऐसे में उसको पैसेज भी पढ़ना है, क्वेश्चन को भी सॉल्व करना है। तो रटने से बहुत सारी चीज़ें नहीं होंगी। अब जैसे ये टॉपिक है ग्लेशियर लेक आउटबर्स्ट फ्लड, GLOF। जब भी आप इस को करंट अफेयर्स में आपने देखा होगा तो इसके मल्टीपल डायमेंशंस क्या हैं। अब अगर मैं बोलूँ कि इसमें से एक डायमेंशन क्लाइमेट चेंज है, तो आप सोचेंगे कि यार ये बड़ी अजीब सी बात है कि क्लाइमेट चेंज कैसे इसमें एक डायमेंशन हो सकता है। जी बिल्कुल, क्लाइमेट चेंज इंपॉर्टेंट है, क्योंकि आप जब इस ग्लेशियर लेक आउटबर्स्ट के रीज़न को आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे तो आपको पता चलेगा कि रीज़न ये है कि बहुत हैवी आइस रॉक, है ना, बहुत हैवी आइस रॉक जो है वो सडनली क्या हुआ, ब्रोक ऑफ हुआ। अब अब इसका कॉज क्या हो सकता है? कॉज ऑब्वियसली क्या है? राइजिंग टेम्परेचर। राइजिंग टेम्परेचर किससे रिलेटेड है? क्लाइमेट चेंज से रिलेटेड है। वहीं एक दूसरा फिनोमेना होता है जिसको हम कहते हैं ग्लेशियल रिट्रीट। ग्लेशियल रिट्रीट, अगर आपसे कोई पूछे कि व्हाट इज़ द इम्पोर्टेंस in of glacial retreat per se, yeah, what exactly is the meaning of glacial retreat? So glacial retreat is basically an indication that glaciers are depleting first. Second, that the rate of depletion is greater than the rate of formation, because you need to focus on the word retreat. Now, retreat indicates that, let us imagine that this is a mountain, Rocky Mountain, on which uh, the layer of ice sheet that used to form was like this at one point of time. Slowly, what started to happen due to rising temperatures and less precipitation, you will say that the air was warmer and now the glaciers were forming like this. Now, earlier they were till here, now they have retreated to these positions. Now, this indicates that the glaciers are going back, and hence the word retreat. So, year after year, the formation of the glaciers was shifting backwards, and that particular thing is important because this indicates the rising temperature. And much of the glacial retreat will cause, climate change will cause, you can say, lack of availability of fresh water. Lack of availability of fresh water. Right? You know that the fresh water is very reserved. And the adverse effect of recent, you can say, in climate change negotiations, what has happened, that it is stated that much of the Africa, right, will go, you can say, will be without water by 2080. And much of the fresh waters will be depleted by 2030. Now, because of this without water, definitely it will affect the food cycle as well. And with respect to this, migration would be here taking place. Now, this particular migration, the factor you can say, will be induced by climate, and hence they will be called as climate related migration or climatic climate induced migration. Now the question comes that has it anywhere happened? Yes, very recently, Tuvalu Islands, Tuvalu Islands are the example that from Tuvalu Islands, people started to move towards Australia, saying that these islands are sinking. Now, again, sinking is with respect to the melting of glaciers, right? Particularly Antarctica. But the biggest question comes that all of this is with related to carbon dioxide emissions, CO2 emissions. Now, with respect to CO2 emissions, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change UNFCCC was adopted in 1992. In this, very important aspect is COP21. So we have had very recently COP28. Now, if CO2 emissions are responsible for this, then what is the key component, or you can say, question specific area that will be asked? So, it is not that you have to study current affairs in isolation. This is one recent current affairs with respect to Sikkim, Lonark Lake, Chungthang Dam. That's correct. But the moment you see this particular glacial lake outburst flood as a topic, all of these dimensions should run in your head. Then what happens? Learning becomes fun. And when you come about migration, then World Migration Outlook report is there. Now, when you read about UNFCCC, you know that IPCC reports are there. In IPCC reports, you have heard that there was sixth assessment report recently. And this is the basis on which COP28 is relying. And very recently, it has also been stated by a report by World Meteorological Organization. Report by World Meteorological Organization. Right? And what did this report state? This report states that 2011 to 2020 was the hottest decade ever recorded. Now, this becomes the question specific area that can be asked. World Meteorological Organization has released a report. What is the hottest decade? And it also states that there are three gases which are primarily responsible for, you can say, increasing temperature. In this, carbon dioxide is there, right? Along with this, methane is there. Along with this, nitrous oxide is there. All these three gases have been released, you can say it states 37% more emission since 2001 till 2010. Now there is a debate with respect to both carbon dioxide and methane. There is this methane pledge, global methane pledge. It states that you will reduce methane emissions by 2030. It was introduced by USA. Whether India has signed it. Now this question comes whether India has signed it. No, India has not signed it. Now again, you need to know why India has after all not signed methane emission. To understand this, you need to go to the source of methane. What is the source of methane emissions? Then you will find that it is agriculture. paddy, which means rice cultivation, along with animal husbandry. If you look into rural population of India, if you look into rural population of India, the rural population of India, the economic condition, or you can say, if you want to uplift them, both of them needs to be promoted. So India is not just one country. There is a club called as Basic Club, whose agriculture is whose economy is largely dependent on agriculture. And you will find it is Brazil, it is South Africa, it is India, and it is China. All these countries have denied to ratify the global methane pledge, because then the question comes, why America is focusing so much on methane? So it is stated in the report itself, they have stated that actually what is happening is that methane stays in the atmosphere for 10 years, only 10 years, but heat, absorbs more heat than carbon dioxide, than CO2. If it absorbs more heat, it also radiates more heat. It also radiates more heat. And this causes more climate change events. You know, delta T, what is the target that they have set? 1.5 degrees Celsius to 2 degrees Celsius. What is the time period that they are using? 1850 to 1900 के टाइम पे जो ग्लोबल एवरेज टेम्परेचर ऑफ अर्थ था, अर्थ का जो डिग्री सेल्सियस में टेम्परेचर था इस टाइम पे, उसमें जो चेंज होना चाहिए दैट इज डेल्टा टी, वो 1.5 से 2 डिग्री सेल्सियस होना चाहिए। कब तक? 2100 तक। अभी क्या चल रहा है? अभी कहा जा रहा है कि 2.5 डिग्री सेल्सियस से 3 डिग्री सेल्सियस का डेल्टा टी होगा। तो अमेरिका पहले ये कह रहा है कि यार मीथेन को कम करो, क्योंकि मीथेन ज़्यादा रिस्पॉन्सिबल है। और एग्रीकल्चर डिपेंडेंट कंट्रीज़ का ये कहना है कि हम कैसे करें, हम एग्रीकल्चर एक्टिविटीज़ को कम कैसे करें। क्या कहना चाहते हैं आप? अब उसी से रिलेटेड आपने देखा कि फूड इनसिक्योरिटी हो ही रही है, फ्रेश वाटर इनसिक्योरिटी हो रही है। कहाँ से स्टार्ट किया था हमने? ग्लेशियर लेक आउटबर्स्ट प्लस से, और अभी बात ख़त्म नहीं हुई। अब ये जो डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज़ हैं, जो बेसिक कंट्रीज़ हैं, इन्होंने क्लाइमेट फंड फाइनेंसिंग की भी बात कर रखी है। पूरा जो इशू इस समय आप देखेंगे, अगर आप कोई भी कार्बन ट्रेडिंग मैकेनिज्म देखिए, आप कार्बन मार्केट्स देखिए, जो आपको सुनने में आएगा। ये आफ्टर ऑल कार्बन मार्केट्स क्यों बनाई जा रही हैं? ये एक तरह का क्लाइमेट फाइनेंसिंग का मैकेनिज्म है, जिसका यूज़ करके क्लाइमेट चेंज के टारगेट्स को अचीव करने वाले को इंसेंटिव दिया जाएगा। ये इंसेंटिवाइज करेगा, राइट। और जो जिसने क्लाइमेट चेंज कॉज किया है, टेम्परेचर CO2 एमिशन ज़्यादा किया है, ज़्यादा इंडस्ट्रियल एक्टिविटी कर रहा है, टारगेट अचीव नहीं कर रहा है, उसको पैसा देना पड़ेगा। तो कार्बन मार्केट मैकेनिज्म में किसका फंडा फॉलो किया जा रहा है? ये क्वेश्चन आता है कि किसने अभी बेसिकली सबसे पहले कार्बन मार्केट्स का ट्रेडिंग किया? यूरोपियन यूनियन ने बनाया ये फंडा। इंडिया ने लार्जली यूरोपियन यूनियन के कार्बन ट्रेडिंग मैकेनिज्म को, जो कार्बन मार्केट्स का फंडा उन्होंने बनाया है, उसको अडॉप्ट कर लिया है। अब सवाल यह है कि क्लाइमेट फाइनेंसिंग का जो पूरा जो मेन पॉइंट है क्लाइमेट फाइनेंसिंग के लिए, द हाउ इट इज़ टू बी डन, क्या ये लोन्स के फॉर्मेट में रहेगा या ये ग्रांट्स के फॉर्मेट में रहेगा? अब इसमें लोन्स हैं, तो लोन्स में अगेन मल्टीलेटरल डेवलपमेंट बैंक लोन प्रोवाइड करेंगी, तो इनका क्राइटेरिया क्या होना चाहिए? व्हाट इज गोइंग टू बी द क्राइटेरिया? These all are the areas where debate is there in climate financing, and COP28 was also one of those debates, conferences where this issue was raised, right? But then there is also one another fact, loss and damage funds, that you need to remember. Loss and damage fund was introduced in COP27. Now, this is the major initiative with respect to climate financing, loss and damage funds, where the developing countries have been committed $100 billion per year. Who is going to move how much money? That is again another riskier issue that is still under consideration. So when you are able to connect current affairs from one topic to another, I would say it becomes easier to draw a pattern in your head and remember things. Whatever current affairs that we have discussed so far here has been in trend since past 2 years. They have not been asked as of now, but international law, international organizations, international summits, international conventions, and the debates around it always are important. Similarly, you will find Israel Hamas conflict is there. This is one area where CLAT has asked questions this particular year, and we all are aware about it. But look at the nature of questions that they have asked. So they have asked what was the nature of Hamas? What is the history of Hamas? Because this particular trend was there. Now we have studied that in G20 this year, 2023, which India had hosted, India Middle East European Economic Corridor was announced. Right? And we have studied that this was the rail sea link and everything. In which what was important was that Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates both were there, and Israel was also there. Now, Saudi Arabia getting in terms with Israel. This is considered to be the trigger point. And recently, Saudi Arabia has withdrawn, had stated that we are no more a part of IMEC. But recently, what is going on in United Nations? So, United Nations Secretary General has written a letter to United Nations Security Council. Antonio Guterres has written a letter to United Nations Security Council. And what this letter had, call for immediate ceasefire. Because United Nations Secretary General had warned that very soon this particular issue is going to turn into a regional crisis. And the epicenter of the regional crisis is none other than Mediterranean Sea. And Mediterranean Sea is very close to Atlantic Ocean. So and regionally Black Sea, the routes are already compromised. So if Mediterranean Sea is affected, Suez Canal will be affected. And Suez Canal के across जो shipment है उसमें दिक्कत आएगी ही आएगी. जब सुएज कैनाल के शिपमेंट में दिक्कत आएगी तो फिर अरेबियन सी में आएगी. और अभी इस लेटर में हुआ क्या है, मेन पॉइंट है क्या, यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका ने वीटो कर दिया. कहा कि किसी भी तरीके से हम अभी इमीडिएट सीज फायर नहीं कर सकते. और 13 कंट्रीज ने सपोर्ट किया है, ये भी याद रखिएगा. 13 कंट्रीज वोटेड इन फेवर. थर्टीन कंट्रीज वोटेड इन फेवर. यूनाइटेड नेशन जनरल असेंबली में भी एक ऐसा बिल इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ. यूनाइटेड नेशन जनरल असेंबली में भी बिल इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ और पहले भी हुआ है, जहां पे हमास के एक्शंस को क्या कहा गया है, टेरर अटैक. ऐसे यू कैन से मोशंस वर इंट्रोड्यूस्ड And this happened in 2008. This happened in 2008. The motion could not be passed. Again, the question comes, why? What were the factors because of which the motion could not be passed? So, as per Article 35 of UN Charter, I think it's article that this is where I can be a bit mistaken. I'm not able to recall. So I'll not tell you this. It's not Article 35. I think Article 32. I'm a little bit confused here. But as per UN Charter, what happens if there is any bill with respect to international peace and security? If there is any bill with respect to international peace and security, right, and you need to get it passed, what you require is two-third votes, two-third votes of present and voting. This is what you need to get a motion passed. Now what happens here is Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Organization of Islamic Cooperation is there, which we call as OIC. How many countries it has? 57 countries. 57 countries. And these countries do not let any motion, such motion, get passed. So, Organization of Islamic Cooperation played a key role in protecting Hamas led actions. This is the history. Now, what about Organization of Islamic Cooperation? So, India has recently stated that United Nations में religious cartels create हो रहे हैं. Religious motivated cartels create हो रहे हैं. ये कब हुआ? जब अभी रिसेंटली इंटरनेशनल डे इंटरनेशनल डे फॉर या अगेंस्ट इस्लामोफोबिया was announced. It's March 15th, I guess. And you have to connect current affairs. So India has stated this particular thing. So this is the fact. So this fact can be asked. UN Charter can be asked. What is the history can be asked, right? And when was Organization for Islamic Cooperation formed? What do you think? It was formed in 1969, OIC. Why? The infamous 1967 Israel-Arab War that had happened. Now, very recently, you will hear the term again, First Intifada, somewhere around 1987. What was it? What was First Intifada? What was the purpose of First Intifada? So, it was not a war. First Intifada was not a war. First Intifada was, you can say, a social movement at that particular time. Social movement for what? Displaced Palestinians. Displaced Palestinians. Palestinians who were displaced due to the 1967 Israel-Arab War. For the first time in 1987, somebody gave a very strong movement, and that is where the roots of Hamas lies as Islamic resistance movement. They gave the first clarion call to everybody, let's come back and take away and let's take back our lands, because key boundaries were altered. This is not disputed that Israel had taken over Palestine. Israel is slowly wiping off the face of Palestine. To let's forget about two-state solution as of now. The boundaries are encroached. Israel has transgressed into Palestinian lands, and that is a fact that every country realizes it. And but one on in United Nations we say that diplomatically बात करिए, बात करके resolve करिए. लड़ाई झगड़ा is not the solution. So first Intifada was not a war, okay? It was a social movement. And that is after which some 6 years later you saw in 1993 Oslo Accords in Norway that led to the settlement, peace settlement. If you will look into Israeli Defense Forces, they still control the security of that particular region as well as Israel as well as Jerusalem. This is in agreement with Palestine Liberation Organization. Now, these are the dimensions that you need to understand. And this is where I am going to guide you throughout the current affairs mentorship of CLAT Mini. That is a very small initiative where I am going to induct very limited number of students and we're going to kickstart in the month of January. So if you really are interested, just drop me a text, give me a hi. We'll have a 15-minute interview session, after which I'll be inducting you into the program. After that, only after being assured, then only, because this is not a very costly, you can say, a course where anybody who has the money can enroll. Definitely, I need to have understand some sort of competence in you so that I can filter you before. So I'll see you in the next session. I hope you like this particular session. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Connect with me over my Telegram channel, and definitely it would be fun having you around. Thank you. Goodbye.